Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how to safely load and holster your gun. Okay, so this video is primarily intended for the new concealed carriers in states like New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, Hawaii, and Illinois. And that's going to benefit people in all other states as well. But the people in those states, when they go to a gun range, most of the other people there haven't been carrying a gun. So they really can't give you tips on concealed carrying. And even the instructors at the ranges in those states, to them it's academic, okay? They haven't been carrying a gun for like 15, 20, 30 years. So there's certain questions that have to be considered, like, for example, how do you use the bathroom if you're carrying a gun, right? They may not have the answer to that. That's one of the things that we're going to address in this video here today, okay? So the first thing to understand when it comes to carrying a gun is that the holster is the safety mechanism, okay? Now, it has to be a hard plastic holster like this that's form-fitted to the gun, right? It has to be made specifically for the gun. And when the gun is in the holster, right, it protects the trigger, right? So it retains the gun, so I can hold this upside down, shake it, it's not going to fall out, right? That protects the trigger. The gun cannot fire unless you can get to the trigger. So it's safe to carry this gun, loaded with around the chamber because the trigger is protected. Now, you cannot carry a striker-fired gun like this in a leather holster or in a fabric holster, okay? Because what happens is a fabric or a leather holster, it might collapse over here. So when you reholster the gun, it might collapse and pinch the trigger and basically fire the gun into your leg. So it has to be a plastic, non-collapsible holster like this, okay, that even 10 years from now is going to have the same shape. That is the safety mechanism of the gun, okay? You cannot depend on external safeties, right? The problem with external safeties like switches and buttons that they'll sometimes put on these pistols is that they're usually off when you wanted them on and they're on when you wanted them off. And it's also one more thing that can break on the gun, right? The more parts that go into the gun, the more likely things can break. The nice thing about Glock-like guns is that they have very few parts in there. So there's less things that can break. Okay? Now, with regards to carrying the gun loaded with around the chamber, the thing is there's 3 internal safeties on the gun. Okay, so the first safety is the trigger safety. So there's a little. Let me get behind the camera, make sure it's in focus. Okay, so there's if you look on the trigger here, right? You see that little leaf-like thing that sticks out? Well, you have to push on that in order for the trigger to go back, okay? So if I hold this on the sides, right? If I hold this on the side over here and pull it back, it's not going to come back. So your finger, see, it's not coming back because your finger has to be on the trigger to depress that trigger safety in order for this to go click. Okay, so that's the first safety. The second safety, let me open up the gun. The second safety is the fact that the firing pin, which is the back of the firing pin over here, right? That has to move back. Okay, basically the sear has to engage that, pull that back, and then release it, right? Pull it back and release it in order for that firing pin to go forward and hit the primer. Okay, so it's kind of like with a bow and arrow, right? If you're going to shoot a bow and arrow, you have to pull the string back in order to build up the tension so that you can release it. Okay, well, the same exact thing is happening here. When you press, okay, come back, right? When you press the trigger, right? I'm pressing the trigger, right? You see that bar right there? That's the sear right there. Well, what happens is that comes back and down like that. And what that's doing is that's hooking onto the firing pin over here, pulling it back, and then when it reaches a certain point, it drops down, releases it, and then the firing pin goes forward. Okay, so that's your second safety. And the third safety is the firing pin block, which is right here, right? You see that little firing pin block? Well, here's the thing. In order for the firing pin to go forward, right, I have to push that little safety. So when I push this in, You see how that firing pin comes through the hole over there, right? There's a hole right in there where my finger is. See when I'm pushing the firing pin, the firing pin block. Okay, so if I don't push on that and I push forward on this, it can't possibly come forward. So when you press the trigger, okay, in the same motion that the sear is coming back to pull back the firing pin, this little fin here is pressing up on the safety plunger, which is moving it out of the way so that the firing pin can come through, right, like it is right now. So see how that's through now? Get that to focus. There it is. You can see it. Okay, so those are the 3 safeties that are built into a striker fired gun, and that's why you don't need additional safeties. That's enough safeties. If you start putting more safeties on the gun, that's one more thing that can fail. It's also, I mean, it can break on the gun, or you can forget to put it on or forget to turn it off. So it's just more unnecessary complications. So the designers already did a good job of designing a safe gun. The only thing you gotta do is make sure that you have a holster that's designed to carry that gun, retain it, right, and protect the trigger guard. Okay, that's the only thing that you have to concern yourself with. Okay, so and I wanted you guys to have all that information so that you can feel comfortable about carrying the gun loaded with around the chamber. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to safely load the gun and holster it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the empty holster and I'm going to put this on my belt. Okay, and you have to have a good belt that can hold the holster and not twist it. Now this one over here is for outside the waistband carry, right? All right, so that goes on the outside. And then over here, I have one for inside the waistband carry. Okay, I'm going to put this on too so that I can demonstrate to you guys. And the nice thing about these 2 holsters is when I carry outside the waistband, I usually carry in the 3 o'clock position. When I carry inside the waistband, I carry in the 5 o'clock position. So these 2 don't even interfere with each other. I can actually carry 2 guns. Okay, so when the holster is when the holster's on your body, I'm going to start with the outside of the waistband. Okay, I'm going to open up the gun, check it. I mean, I know it's not loaded, but still, what I'm doing is every time I pick up the gun and every time I put it down, I'm reinforcing that safety habit of checking the gun. Okay, other than like when I'm carrying the gun and I know it's loaded, that's a whole other story. Okay, so I'm gonna open the gun, check it. I know it's not loaded. I'm gonna take the magazine. I'm gonna keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Now, here, a safe direction for the next few minutes is gonna be in that direction over there, right? So if that's a safe direction, I want to keep the gun pointed that way. So what that means is instead of standing like this, right? But if I'm standing like this, I'm going to naturally want to point the gun that way. So if I want the gun pointed this way, I want to blade my body like this so that the gun points that way. So actually, let me demonstrate. So if I stand like this, see how the gun points at you over there? But if I stand like this, the gun wants to point that way. So I want to figure out where I want to keep the gun pointed and how I want to stand. So if I want to keep the gun pointed that way, I'm going to blade my body like this, and I'm going to lock the gun open, okay? So the way you lock the gun open is you push up on the slide catch, lock the gun open like that, okay? So when the gun is locked open, we want to lock the gun open in order to load it. The reason for that is because if you take a magazine that has bullets in it and you put it in there, what's happening is when you shove this in there, this top round is trying to get compressed in, right? This has to compress in order for this to go in there. So that takes a lot more effort, right? So if you lock the gun open, right, this now goes in really easy, right? Right? It'll go in, it'll click. There's less of a chance that the magazine is just going to be sitting there like that, and then it's just going to drop out at some point, right? So that's why we lock and load. When people say the term lock and load, this is what they mean: lock the gun open and load it. Okay, so once the magazine's in there, right, you want to keep the gun. And when you're doing this in your house, you gotta basically designate a safe area. So, you know, figure out where the houses around you are, where people in your house are. You know, figure all that stuff out. Figure what the safe direction is, where you can keep the gun pointed in, right? Lock the gun open, put the magazine in, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the slide and I'm gonna pull this back and just slingshot it. And if you notice, I'm keeping my hands close to my body. What you don't want to do is pull the slide back and then let your hand move out in front of your gun barrel, right? So everything basically stays from here back, right? From here back, right? Your hand never goes in front of the gun, right? So now that I have a round in the chamber, and if I want to check this, I can pinch this back, right? See, and if you pinch it back, you can see how you get around the chamber there. So now I got around the chamber. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the magazine, and I'm going to reholster. I'm going to holster the gun, right? All right. And now what I'm going to do is I can take another round, because I just stripped off one round. I can replace that top round. Same deal. Pull out the gun, put the money, and hit it hard. Give it a little tug and make sure it's, you know, it's in there, right? That's not sitting there loose. And then reholster. Now, when we reholster, this hand is on your body. You gotta know where this hand is. And usually, what I'll do is I'll pull up my shirt so it doesn't get caught up in the trigger guard, and I'll reholster the gun. Now, the other thing I'm also aware of, I want to be aware of where my other hand is, so I don't fire into my hand. I also want to be aware of where my feet are. So usually, when I reholster, right, what I'll do is I'll kick my hip out, right, so that as the gun goes into the holster, it's pointed away from the body. So see how I'm like this, right? When I go out, I'll stick this out a little bit. You see how my shirt's getting caught up in there? Get your shirt out of the way, look at it, point it away from your body. Don't get caught up with, like a lot of people say, sometimes you should get really good at reholstering without looking at the gun, or looking at the holster. Listen, you guys are just starting out with this. Look at the holster, right? It's more important that you don't shoot yourself in the foot than that you prove to everybody that you are like the most tactical person in the world, okay? So when you reholster, make sure your shirt's out of the way, stick your hip out, reholster the gun, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing with this Glock 43, okay? That was a Glock 19, this is a Glock 43. Lock the gun open, all right? Take the magazine, put the magazine in there, make sure you get that click. If you need to, check it, tug on it, all right? Don't be shy about tugging on it. When you put it in there, put it in, hear that click, tug on it, give it a little tug. Make sure the gun points downrange. Again, slingshot it, okay? Keep everything nice and tight to your body. The skills that we're developing now are going to scale. So later on, when we're doing more advanced stuff, we're going to use the same methods, right? So keep your hands tight, everything tight to your body, pull it back, slingshot it. Keep your hand back here. Don't let your hands run out in front of the gun, right? All right, same deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the magazine, okay? Same thing. I'm going to put this in the 5 o'clock position. I'm sticking my ass out to make sure that the gun points away from my body as I'm reholstering. I'm going to top off my magazine, right? Top off my magazine. Then I'm going to take the gun out. Again, go straight to a safe direction. Let's say that now that's a safe direction, right? Because basically, at this location, I can point the gun 360 degrees. So right now, I'm designating that as a safe direction over there. So I'm going to pull the gun out, okay? Point the gun forward, put the magazine in, okay? Give it a tug, make sure it's in, right? And basically, keep control of this hand. Pull up your shirt, get it out of the way, okay? Lift it up, make sure it doesn't get caught up in the trigger guard, and reholster. A lot of times, not a lot of times, but there have been stories, all right, and this happens very rarely, but it does happen, where somebody will say that they're in the store or in their house, and the gun suddenly goes bang while it's in their holster. The reason why that would happen is because when you holstered the gun, your shirt got caught up in the trigger guard, okay? It got caught up in there. So then at some later point, you tugged on your shirt, and then that pulled up on your trigger guard, and the gun went bang, okay? So when you reholster, you gotta make sure that your shirt's not caught up in the trigger guard. The things that you're concerned with, make sure first make sure that the gun's always in safe direction, hands out of the way, shirt's out of the way, your feet are out of the way, okay? So just angle things so that everything is out of the way. So that's how you're going to safely load your gun and holster it. Now, if I need to use the bathroom, right? Or very important, if you use the bathroom, you never want to rest the gun on the surface, right? So let's say I got to drop my pants. I don't want to drop my pants with all this stuff over here. So what I'm going to do is I'll loosen up my belt a little bit, okay? I'm going to take the gun, I'm going to take the holster off my belt and leave it inside the holster, because the holster is the safety mechanism. And the whole thing like this goes in my pocket. Oh, get the strap out. No, normally this gun's not here, so normally I'd be putting it in that pocket, but the whole thing like this goes in my pocket. The gun stays inside the holster, and now I can drop my pants, and I don't have to worry about the gun hitting the floor or being seen when it's on the floor. Okay, I never want to take this and put this on a surface, because I'm going to forget it sooner or later. Same thing if I'm in my house. If I'm in my house, the gun is either on my body or it's in the safe. It's never on a surface like that, because I'm going to forget it sooner or later, and I got small kids in my house. I can't take a chance with that. So guns are either on my body or in the safe. There's no in between, ever, 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 ever. All right. So when I get home at night, same procedure. Take the gun off my belt. I put it in the safe like this. Okay. Loaded round the chamber in the holster. Right. This gun's loaded not right now, but that I don't have to worry about this. This gun's not going to go bang, because it's in the holster. All right. So this goes in the safe. Next morning, when I take the gun out of the safe, I'm going to take the whole thing like this, and I'm going to put this back on my belt, okay, and I'm ready to go. I just tighten up my belt, I'm ready to go. Now, if, let's say I need to go into a post office or something where I can't take the gun in, right, if I got to go into a federal building, same deal. That's the one and only time where the gun is not either, like, not on my body or not in the safe, okay, because then I got to lock it up in my car. But the same deal, right, if I want to go inside to a post office, I'm going to take the gun off my belt, like this, hide this in my car, lock it up, right? Go do my business. Then when I'm done, I'm going to come out and I put the whole thing back on my belt like this. The last thing I want to be doing out in public, like inside my car, is fumbling with unloading the gun, right? You know, pulling around out of the chamber, and then when I go back there, trying to reload the gun. You normally don't do this inside your car, right? You normally are, you know, that's not where you normally handle your guns. So when you try to load or unload your gun inside your car, like down low so nobody can see you, right? That's when you're going to have an accident, because you're doing something that you normally don't do, okay? So avoid the problem altogether, right? If you need to leave the gun in the car, right? Leave the gun loaded like this, right? It's in the holster, but this gun is perfectly safe. Nothing can possibly happen to this. Take this, lock this up in your car, right? Go do your business. When you come out, this thing like this goes back on your belt, really nice and quick and easy. I'm not running any additional risk. When the gun comes out of the holster, I'm running a risk. That's an unnecessary risk. Pretty much, the only time the gun comes out of the holster is to be used, okay? And that's either at the gun range when I'm practicing, or if you ever are in a real life and death type of struggle where you have to use the gun to defend yourself. That's the only time it comes out of the holster. You don't. There's no other times. You don't pull it out of the holster to show it to somebody any place other than the gun range. Okay, you don't want to do that in a parking lot or something. You're gonna have an accident, because that's not a place where you normally handle guns. Okay, so you wanna this for everybody. You want to establish, or you're going to rather establish, certain areas that you are comfortable handling guns, and you're gonna do things in certain orders and do it routinely and get really used to it. Okay, so if you try and handle the gun at other times in different orders, you're going to make a mistake. So there's no reason to run that mistake. Stick to the things that you normally do, right? And again, the easiest thing, whether you're going home or if you're going into a federal building or something, leave the gun in the holster. This is a lot easier to do than it is to actually unload the gun. Take the magazine out, take a round out of the chamber, and then later on, put the magazine in, put another round in the chamber, top the magazine off. Don't do any of that. You're going to make a mistake. Sooner or later, you may not make a mistake the first 1,000,000 times. You're going to make a mistake 1,000,001 time. Okay. So yeah, don't do complicated things in places that you normally don't do complicated things. Okay. I think that covers everything I want to talk with you guys. One of the things that you guys got to be aware of in those states, right, is if in most of those states, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, Illinois, Hawaii, they're probably going to be concealed carry only. If the gun becomes exposed, you might attract unwanted attention You might have some Democrat there that's going to say that you threatened them simply by the fact that the gun became exposed. And they might call the cops on you, and that can put you in a really uncomfortable situation. If you feel, first thing, if you feel that they're going to make a big deal out of this, stop talking. Okay, let them write you a summons, let them do the court appearance thing. You got to have a prepaid lawyer to deal with that kind of stuff. Okay, because if you're in those states, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, Hawaii, Illinois, you're basically a political enemy of the ruling class. Okay, and if you make a mistake, they're not going to be like, oh, he just made a little mistake, he's a good guy, let him go. No, no, no. They're going to be like, this guy's a political enemy, he's on the other side. Let's see how much damage we can do to this person. So if you get caught up in a situation like that, don't start yapping, because you're just going to get yourself into more trouble. What you got to have is, you got to have a prepaid lawyer. As soon as you sense that you're in some trouble, okay, get on the phone with the prepaid lawyer. Let them do the talking. The one that I use is U.S. Lawshield. The reason why I use them is because they're only like, it's $40 up front, and then something like $11 a month. Okay, and then you get a promo code over here, which you get some discount. Right? There's the website, U.S. Lawshield. The promo code is Pocono Shooting. It's $11 a month. So, you know, and if you add your wife or something, it may go up to $15 or something like that. So there's your promo code. That's going to get you some discount. I'm not sure. I don't know what it is offhand. They change it on a month-to-month basis, I think. So some months you might get an extra month. Some other months you might get a discount. Whatever it is, throw it in there. You know, you get whatever you get. But you got to have a prepaid legal service to deal with any problems that might arise. Because, like I said, especially in those states, they see you as a political enemy. Now, even a state like mine, like Pennsylvania, right? Even though this is a gun-friendly state, at the moment, the governor, right, and the state attorney general, they're Democrats, okay? They're very anti-gun. So if I make a mistake, they're going to come after me, okay? So same deal. You know, I have this prepaid legal service for that same reason, because I recognize that the ruling class sees me as a political enemy. So I hope you guys found this video useful. Drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. And share your experiences, right? If you know, as you're going through the process of getting a permit in your state, drop some comments below. Let us know how let me know how that process is going. If you're having any difficulties, you know, post the information, and I'll talk to you all soon.